Yeah, I used to say most contingency plans start with getting the CEO out from underneath the table or chair that they're under in the fetal position and say, we got to face this. We really got to face this.
Exactly. Hi, I'm Eric.
I'm Mike.
And welcome to this week's
Cyber Sitrep.
Oh, I think we got this down.
This one we got. And if you're following online and you can tell when we tape these based on our shirt colors, you'll know that one of these went really poorly, but this one went really well.
Yeah, I think so. We started off rough. You were about to crack up, and then we lost track of time, and we didn't have a script. And anytime we freestyle,
we go long.
Yeah, we go long. So, all right. So
our apologies to the editing crew up front.
They're worth every penny.
Exactly.
But you're right. So, Mike, this week's Sitrep, something near and dear to both of our hearts, is have a plan, a contingency plan.
That's right.
So what do we mean by contingency? What's a contingency?
Well, Mike Tyson used to say, you have a plan in the boxing ring until you get punched in the face.
I read that this morning when I was going through my notes for this. I swear I had there was a meme with that exact phrase on there with Mike Tyson. So absolutely right.
And in the military, we say, all plans go to hell upon first contact with the enemy.
Exactly right.
So same. Nothing goes the way we think it is, so maybe we need to have a contingency, an alternate plan, something to do when things go wrong.
I call it my bad day planning, right?
Yes. The hope, it's the break glass in case of.
Exactly.
Like we hope we never have to, but you want it there. You don't want the first time for you to think about, what do I do when we're flooded out? Is while the water is rising up over your head.
Right. I mean, a stat that I heard a long time ago, and this was when 9/11 happened, is that over 60% of businesses that did not have contingency plans and alternative workspaces, et cetera, were out of business within a year because they grossly overestimated the availability of space, right?
That's
and so
right.
It was first come, first serve. The people that were smart and had their contingency plans put together, and we'll talk in a second that it's an umbrella for different types underneath that, they were able to get back up to speed fairly quickly, stay in business. And those that didn't, it was like the kindergarten game of musical chairs, right?
Right.
And so there's not enough chairs to go around, so somebody's going to get bumped
except
out.
for instead of just one missing chair, there's 40 students and 2 chairs, and they're like, okay, who gets them?
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like the Squid Game version.
I was going to say Squid Game, Hunger Games version of musical chairs.
Really bad, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, so if you're, in business, you better have a contingency plan, and you can have multiple plans that fall under the umbrella. I'll talk about that in just a second. Yeah. But you've got to plan for this now, right? So, prepping while you're not under duress makes when you are under duress a lot easier to deal with, right?
Absolutely.
Because we're not always in our right minds, right? When we're under duress, those higher functions tend to go out the window, and we revert to primal mode of operation, right?
Yeah, I used to say most contingency plans start with getting the CEO out from underneath the table or chair that they're under in the fetal position and say, we got to face this. We really got to face this.
Exactly. Which that's funny you mentioned that. That's part of our checklist is getting the CEO out from underneath the desk, getting them to commit to creating a policy, et cetera, et cetera. So, so full disclosure, everybody, we are not geniuses. We didn't invent this.
Nope.
We are using a resource that everybody that listens to us should also utilize, and that is the National Institute of Standards and Technology, right? NIST, N-I-S-T. They have a special publication series, SP 800, which is computer security related topics, and specifically contingency planning, which is an excellent document, totally free for you to pull it down. And in another podcast, we'll talk about if you're not in CONUS, how you can use a VPN to get access to said asset. But the document in question is NIST Special Publication 800-34 Revision 1. Title is Contingency Planning Guide for Federal Information Systems. Now, it says Federal Information Systems, but guess what? You can change that and say corporate systems. You can say whatever you want. It's a darn good document.
That's right.
We use it for all of our customers, both commercial and government, and we haven't had a complaint yet. So
yeah, we use the NIST documents for a lot of our clients that aren't in the DoD space,
right?
And we just tell them replace even like the controlled unclassified CUI. That's your IP. That's your
your
data.
proprietary, your company sensitive, whatever that happens to be.
Protect it the same way. It's a great document set.
Yeah.
So just use it.
And for those of you that don't know, the NIST is a think tank full of really smart people, highly advanced degrees, tons of experience, subject matter expertise, the best and brightest we have right in the nation. So why wouldn't we use them and their expertise?
No sense reinventing the wheel.
Right. And if you guys have a better standard out there for this, let us know. But I haven't seen it yet. This is still the gold standard for us, right? Okay. So use that guide. We're not going to go into every detail on it. We're going to give you a topical, short approach here, just kind of executive summary, which literally is from the executive summary of the document. Full disclosure, yet again. Just want to be honest. I want people to beat me up.
We're giving you an executive summary of the executive summary.
We did. We pilfered it for this cast to make you guys aware of it, right?
Right.
So one of the things to realize is that contingency planning is kind of an umbrella term, right?
Right.
Kind of a overarching, bad day planning, but realize we have a lot of specialty plans within that. Some of the high ones, and this isn't exhaustive. Once again, you guys are going to download the doc and read it yourself. Right. But we have a continuity of operations plan, the COOP.
Yep.
Right?
The disaster recovery plan, the DRP.
Critical information protection, CIP.
And the business continuity plan.
Right.
What do we do to keep the business running?
Exactly. Right. And all these, they all kind of sound, a lot of people think these are interchangeable. There's a lot of overlap, but they're not the same thing. Right. And one of the things I love about this document, Mike, is that they explain it, right? NIST explains what those nuances are. What is the commonality between those? And then what's different? What makes the COOP different from the DRP and vice versa? Right. Awesome. Great resource there, especially if you're pursuing any kind of degree in InfoSec. Use this as a resource, and you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, right. If you have to write a COOP for your college class,
absolutely.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Hey, why do that, right? And then your instructor, if they know what they're doing, which they should, they're going to give you extra points for that, saying, "Hey, you used the right resource. You used
That's right.
NIST.
You followed the right path.
You were smart." Right. Exactly. So okay. So we've got all these different umbrella plans. The nice thing too is that they have appendices at the end that help you develop those. To your point, building a COOP template, they're all there for you. It's great, very well vetted. We all use it in the industry. I can't stress that enough. So all right, so let's get into the nuts and bolts, right? So I call it the too long didn't read. There's 7 steps here, right? I know you got to keep it simple for me, man. So at the high level, absolute first step, Mike, is what you just said. You got to get the CEO out from underneath the desk, get them to pull their thumb out of their mouth.
We have to have the policy, right? The document.
Right. And policies have to be driven top down, right?
That's
Meaning the senior leadership of your company have to say, look, knuckleheads, as an organization, we're going to do this because I said so. I'm the boss, and it's important. And these are the resources we're going to utilize to implement this policy, which, once again, you're going to reference the 800-34 document for that, right?
I often say to our clients, the CEOs or the senior leadership who are like, "Oh no, that's an IT decision or that's an IT's job." I go, "Okay, so you got ransomware for $2 million. The IT person has access to the bank, right? They can just pay the $2 million because you don't care. You gave all that decision power to the IT department." And they're like, "Well, no." And I'm like, "So I guess senior leadership needs to be involved in incident response plans."
I love your approach. That's great. It's like smacking a bad dog, right?
Yeah, their eyes light up and they're like, "That is an absolutely good point."
Not that I condone that, but you're nope. What did we learn?
That's right.
That's awesome.
You just got to show them what the other outcomes could be. Because then I also say, well, then they're going to fire you. If you're giving them autonomy and they're like, "Hey, you went to the wrong website, boss."
And that brings up a great point, is it's hard to fire people, depending on what state you're in, if you don't have any policies, plans, or procedures,
something written.
Policy saying, look, you're being held accountable for this.
That's right.
And if you're not, and you don't want to play, then there's the door, right? Now, once again, in Colorado here, we're an at-will state, so we can say, "Mike, I just don't like the color of your shirt today." There's the door,
The door rotates.
Right. But a lot of states, it's harder to do that, and especially if you're in a different country than the United States, you've got a lot different laws there that you need to worry about.
And it's just good to, for me as a business owner, my people should know what I expect of them for them to do it, not guess what my expectations are.
Yeah, what a concept,
wonder,
right?
Good leadership. Maybe we were in the military or something and we were taught some leadership skills.
Maybe for a little bit, right?
Just a little bit.
Okay, so we got the CEO out, we got the thumb out.
Yep.
They're ready to go. Next thing we need to do is we need to conduct a business impact analysis, right?
What will the disaster, what we're preparing for, what will it do for us, against us, hurt us?
Yeah, right. So, what are those things that can make us have a bad day? What are our critical assets that we can't live without, right?
So many companies, we talked about that before on other pod where we were saying, if you don't know what your data is, how do you know what you need to recover?
Yeah, and you're right. We have these same themes that go through multiple Sitreps.
Are we beginning to see the threads?
Yeah, because they are interconnected, right? So we have to do that criticality, right, analysis. We have to identify those critical assets because probably odds are not everything's critical. Like we talked about with data, right? Data backups.
That's right.
I believe that was our most recent one, right?
Yeah, you gotta know in what priority and what needs to come up first. You bring up, say, billing, but you're a manufacturing company and nothing's running off the line. You have nothing to bill for. So maybe we got to bring up the line.
So sequence of events, right? Absolutely. And that BIA, once again, business impact analysis, that is an appendix in the 800-34, walks you through that. How to identify those, see if it really is critical. And then once we have that, then we can determine what is our max tolerable downtime, our MTD, right? Our recovery time objective, RTO. And I know you're laughing. These
the
are all
acronyms are
terms.
flying fast and furious.
And recovery point objective. It's government, people. Sorry, I apologize. But it's how long can you do without that asset? How quickly do you need to get it back into service? And do you have any measures for how to measure, is it in service or not, right?
That's right.
I think that's the shortcut, for those three things.
Yeah, who comes up first, Tom, the maintenance man, or the CEO? Which computer is more important? And it might not be the CEO.
It probably is not. Sorry, CEOs. It's probably not you. You're probably going to be at the end of the train, right?
Yep. Because what are you doing that's mission critical? You're doing a lot of things for the company, but you're not necessarily in the day-to-day ops, which is what needs to come up first.
Maybe that door controller system needs to come up first so people can get in, et cetera.
Or out.
Or out. Well, you're grim today. I like it. That's awesome. Whew. Okay. So once we do the business impact analysis, then we get into identifying controls that can prevent the bad day from happening, right?
How do we mitigate it?
Right. And keep it from happening to begin with, right? And so then that determines, okay, we can do the following things to eliminate those threat vectors. And then for any of those that we can't, then we go into the next phase, which is creating contingency strategies for, okay, we know we can't control that, but how do we deal with it? I'll give you a great example. What happens if your fiber optic internet line gets cut when you're right in the middle of a Teams meeting?
Never happened to anyone.
Never, ever. Yeah, never. Last week for me personally. One of those weeks, right?
Right. Your internet can go down. We don't control our internet service providers, our ISPs.
Right.
We're at their whim.
Totally at their whim. Had no idea they were doing it. They were like, oops, we didn't mean to cut it. We were doing something else. And thankfully, we had our cell phones with us that had good signal, and we were able to use that as a hotspot. And
was that your contingency?
It's the one I made up on the spot, yes. Yeah, it worked.
Right? Yeah, but if we had thought of that ahead of time, as we're doing now, because we ran into it,
we
could have had backup comms already in place.
Exactly. Now, to be fair, though, he's beat me up, guys, but for our scenario is we go to our home internet. Right, so we don't have to be in the office for everything. We have very little that we have to be in the office for. So our contingency, if something goes south with our connection there, we just go boogie back to the house or somebody's house, and we use their internet. It's great.
Yeah,
and that is our strategy.
I was going to say every coffee shop in America, we have contingencies, but it's thinking about them ahead of time. And your example was just a good one of like, okay, what do we do now?
Right.
And you can think of a backup on the spot, but you had a contingency. Should that immediate fix didn't work, grab the laptop and go.
Yeah, exactly. Go see some of our employees and say, hey, we're crashing your place for a little bit. So, but think about that, right? So now
all other duties as assigned.
Exactly. So in the Air Force, we call that additional duties, but the Navy calls it collateral duty.
Collateral duty.
And I had to get used to that. I'm like, collateral, what the heck? Anyway, they're the same thing. Depends on the service. Our Marine and Army brethren, if you guys have a different term for it, let us know.
Yeah.
We'd love to learn new terms. We love acronyms. So Mike, at this point, we got all the elements we need to actually develop that plan, right?
Right. What are we going to do? What are
together,
the steps?
Right. We got all the mechanics there, right?
And something that a lot of people forget, I think, is labeling who.
Yes.
Who is on a team? There should be a team or a disaster recovery
roster, right?
person.
An assignment roster, duty roster.
Right. Ooh, that's an old
topic.
term. Yeah.
It is, but it's in the 34. We didn't make it up.
Right. It's something that you should have because you don't want to think, who do I call?
Right, it's too late at that point, right?
That's right.
If you're in the middle of the situation and you don't have that clearly defined, you're going to have a really bad day.
Is there a person that grabs the CEO from under the desk?
Yes, you have somebody assigned, right?
There should be someone named.
The CEO whisperer.
Yes.
So, Mike, do you have that for you? Do you have anybody assigned to pull you out? Because if you guys look, he's got a video where he actually is.
I am under a desk.
He's balled up and thumb in mouth for one of your promotional videos.
That's right.
Really, really funny. So
I do. Her name is Helen, and she is the one to come grab me.
Thank you, Helen, for that vital activity.
That's right.
So going back to your point, though, Mike, this is the last step here, right? Well, besides maintenance, right? We got to maintain what we do. But before that, we've got the plan put together. The Mike Tyson comment, your plan goes good until you get punched in the face. Right. So you can't just develop the plan and let it collect dust, right?
We love to run tests, tabletops.
We have to validate it, right? Yeah, so we have to test it. Tabletop is primarily the main way a lot of people do their contingency plan validation, but you can also run an exercise,
actually do the backups or the
actually go through the steps. And, it's funny you say that because one of my government customers used to be able to do the tabletop, but because of the benefit the exercise gives them, they require that now. And the reason for that is because now you're going through everything in that plan like you're doing it for real.
That's right.
What better way to see, is that working? Does it not work at all? Wow.
Are your backups any good?
Exactly.
They could be poor, and you don't know that.
Or are you really doing it the hard way, and can you optimize that and save yourself a few steps, right? Because a lot of not a lot of them, all of them are time sensitive.
That's right.
Right? So the quicker and easier you can get something done, why wouldn't you go with that,
right? We were running a tabletop with one of our clients, and all of their call lists, like to call employees and get into contact, was stored on their SharePoint, which was a fantastic spot.
I've heard this story. It's great.
Until we were running through the tabletop and we're like, you've lost internet access from your building and your Microsoft Instant is under attack. So it was a target attack against the company. So you can't
get to your SharePoint.
So that the HR vice president went, yeah, I just go to SharePoint. Oh my God, I don't know how to call anyone.
Right.
So they learned to have a printed copy as well.
And they're not alone. Everybody that we've ever, supported this with from an exercise perspective, ourselves included, it doesn't matter. Every year we find something that we could fix or make better. It's just the nature of it.
That's the reason to do it.
Exactly. That's why you have to do it at least annually, right, is our recommendation. If you want to do it more frequently than that, then that's your business. Go ahead. But at least annually. Now, one important part of this when we say testing, we also have the training component, Mike, right, that I think is critical.
That's right.
Because the people need to know what the incident, or I'm sorry, not the incident, what the CP, whatever it is you're doing, looks like, so they know what's expected, especially if you've assigned them a role.
I was just going to say, don't put them in the document.
Right.
Say, Eric is responsible for doing A, B, and C, and then you have an incident and he's recovered. And I'm like, so Eric, go do A, B, and C. And you're like, what is A, B, and C?
When I find out at the last second I'm the CEO whisperer, that's not going to go well.
That's not going
well.
So,
yeah, exactly. So you've got to train everybody in your organization, whether they have an active role or not, right? You need to make sure that they get that training at least annually so that they know a plan exists for that, right?
And they're in it.
Right. And if they, don't know anything besides that, they're like, okay, I know I can ask about this, and somebody somewhere up the chain, the food chain there, will know what we're doing.
That's right. That's right.
Gotcha. And then finally, what do we have to do once we have the plan done? We've tested it.
Maintain it. Make sure it doesn't go stale.
Yes, exactly.
Because again, we've listed names. We've named names.
Personnel turnover.
And, Eric leaves the company because he found out he was the CEO whisperer.
And I wasn't happy about that.
Right. So you don't wait until there's now an exercise or an actual incident, and Eric goes in. Didn't he leave 4 months ago?
So, Mike, and that brings up a really good point in closing here is I don't know what's worse, not having a plan or the plan being so stale and out of date that it's useless. I would argue the second, right?
Yep.
If you've got that plan, you have this false sense of security, you got it all covered, you're ready to go, and then you haven't maintained it, and the truth moved between the last time you did the plan and when you need it. You're worse off than if you didn't have a plan at all, right? Because now you're going to go in the wrong direction, et cetera. So
be ready.
Yeah.
Have a plan. Know that the plan will go wrong, and have a plan to your plan.
Absolutely. A backup to the backup if you need to.
Yep.
We're not being paranoid. We've actually had to go there. So once again, in closing, NIST special publication 800-34. Check it out. It's free. There's all these other 800 series documents, computer security related.
That's right.
We're going to talk about ad nauseum in future Sitreps because that's what we use and they're great. So Mike, would you like to close us out, sir?
Sure. So we want to say that we're coming to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast Studio at the Next Us, which is a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in downtown Colorado Springs. We're glad to have our podcast held here. And please like and follow, the links below.
And submit your comments and questions.
That's right. We're always happy to answer comments as they come in.
Or jokes, or, we take criticism fairly well. No, we don't.
I do.
He's right. Just don't be a CEO whisperer.
That's right. That's our takeaway. Don't be that person.
Don't be that person. All right, everybody. Thank you for your time. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.